Good morning. Good morning. My name is Andréa Mallard. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer by Pinterest, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Actually, I should say that Germany is one of my absolute favorite countries, and I'm not just saying that because I visited here, but in fact, I was lucky enough in my 30s to live in Germany for about 5 years, and it was actually one of the happiest times of my life. That's my husband up there going down one of the many Rodelbahns that he enjoyed while we lived here, so I'm really thrilled to be back. The last few years have been really difficult, and for a lot of people, they've been asking themselves some fundamental questions. Am I in the right job? Do I need more work-life balance? What makes me really happy? What do I want to do more of? And what do I want to do less of? I certainly know I've been asking myself those questions. And I discovered that the answer to those questions are actually all over the things that I would create and share on Pinterest. You know, in the last 2 years, through the coronavirus, I actually started new things. Pinterest inspired me to take up beekeeping in my backyard, and now it's gotten really out of hand. It inspired my oldest daughter to start learning how to make healthier desserts, and that's mostly so that she can eat more of them. My son, he was stuck at home and he wanted to feel useful, so he started sharing tips about how to play football to people on Pinterest. And even for me, you know, I was really stuck at home, and I started to think, okay, how do I make living at home more exciting? I was inspired to buy a bright blue fridge to liven up my kitchen. I finally hung up all those photos that had been in boxes for years. I had to create a home office like all of you, so I cut a table from my backyard and created a home office. And then I built a little cozy nook so I could escape from the stress of day-to-day life. And the thing I learned during that time was, of course, what we all need right now is a little bit of positivity. And not just positive thinking, but taking a positive action, even if it's very small, every single day. And so at Pinterest, we started to really look into this. And we wanted to research, what is it about positive action in the real world that is so critical to our mental health? So one thing we learned is that right now, we spend about 50% of our waking hours online. 50%. For teenagers, it's even more. It's about 60%. In fact, all of our downtime is now online. That's the first time that's been true in human history. And that's a bit of a problem because it's having a real effect on our mental health. It's changing the way we process information. It's changing how we sleep. It's changing how we self-regulate. It's changing how we manage boredom. It's actually really affecting people in a very, very deep way. And in fact, we've become quite addicted to negative online spaces. It feeds a certain dopamine rush to get stuck in those kinds of cycles, and that's obviously a very big concern. What we've learned is that the people who spend the most time online, as we get sucked in, tend to have the worst outcomes. So teenagers, you remember I said that they were the ones who spent the most time online? They are the ones with the worst mental health outcomes of any cohort. So they're the most depressed. They are the most concerned about what other people think about them. And for me, and certainly at Pinterest, that's something we take really, really seriously, and we want to do something about that. So we believe quite firmly that positive platforms are actually not a choice anymore, they're a necessity. And we wonder what would happen if we really tried to build an internet where any time you spent on it actually fueled positive mental health outcomes, actually made you feel better. So our mission really is to disrupt the internet. We actually want to take on some of the biggest challenges happening right now online and see, can we actually together create an environment that's that much more positive, where we're actually encouraging people to get offline and do things in the real world, because our research tells us that the more you do the more you do in the real world, the happier you are, the better it is for everybody. So we're really trying to build a very different kind of platform, one that's really positive, one that's really inspiring. How are we doing this? Well, we've learned you just can't sit back and hope things are positive. You actually have to design positivity in. So Pinterest has actually been industry leading in many ways as far as the policies we put in place on our platform. So we were the first over 5 years ago to ban health misinformation. So you won't find anti-vaccine content on our site. You won't find fake cures for terminal illnesses. Many years ago we banned political ads because we just could not keep up with the amount of disinformation in them and also foreign interference into elections. If you were to come to Pinterest to look for mental health support, we would proactively ensure that we are serving you the peer-reviewed, science-backed best content in that moment. We don't just rely on an algorithm to do that. And a few years ago, we banned very aggressive weight loss imagery on the platform because we spoke with outside experts and they told us that does nothing to actually help people lose weight, and it does everything to destroy their mental well-being. And just last month, we became the first online platform to ban false or misleading information about climate change. And I'm really pleased to see some of the other platforms now following suit. So why are we doing this? Well, our users tell us that this is the last positive corner of the internet, and they really want us to protect that. They say, hey, there are plenty of places for me to go to fight about my political beliefs or to catch up on what someone ate for breakfast. I actually want a place that is about inspiration, it's about focusing on my own life, and I want you to help me create a life that I love by building on the ideas of others. That positivity is actually very rare. So we've learned that 8 in 10 people who come to Pinterest say not only do they explicitly come to Pinterest to feel more positive, but they feel more positive once they've left. And very few people can say that about some of the other social platforms. Why does this matter? Why does it matter to brands? Why does it matter to creators? Well, as it turns out, we've learned through third-party research that when you put advertising or content next to a lot of fighting or misinformation about climate change or negativity, people consciously or subconsciously start to associate your brand with that information. By contrast, if you show up in a positive, inspirational environment, your brand starts getting associated with those things. And in fact, it literally pays to be positive. So we found that advertisers in these environments actually had better recall, people were more likely to be open to their brand, more likely to want to try it, and when they did, more likely to be loyal to it after the fact. Because the truth is that positivity matters more than ever, and especially post-COVID, users are telling us we need more positive, inspirational environments that are about focusing on your own life, not just watching the lives of others. So when I joined Pinterest, I was told, okay, this is the world's inspiration company, and I asked myself, what does it really mean to be inspirational? I knew all the brands were asking me that, creators were coming to me and saying, how do I become more inspirational? So we did some very involved research and found out that inspiration, it's not just a feeling, that's a common misperception. It's not just like, oh, I feel inspired. Inspiration without action is only half the equation. True inspiration at its core is about creating the urgency to act. And so we said to ourselves, okay, how do we create an environment? We're creating that feeling of urgency, like I want to actually do this. I'm going to do this thing in my real world, not just admire it from afar. So, for example, when we think about shopping on our platform, we said, there's plenty of places to buy things online, but it's not a lot of fun. How do you create an environment where people can not only get inspired about things they might want to buy, but then feel really good that, hey, it's going to work in my house or it's going to work in my life? How do you make shopping feel fun and visual and inspiration the way it used to, maybe 20 years ago? So we tried this strategy. It turns out it really works. So people on Pinterest, obviously, they're there to make decisions about their lives, but as a result, they tend to shop more, they certainly buy more when they do, and they're more likely to come back and shop again and again. And that makes perfect sense because, of course, shopping ads, for instance, don't have to interrupt what you're otherwise there to do. It's content that people are actually asking for. It's not interrupting the experience, it's actually enabling the experience. The other thing that's interesting is that Pinterest is built on a very different system than other platforms. So this is not a social graph or a search engine, it's actually a taste graph. So we have hundreds and hundreds of millions of people who come to Pinterest every single month. But at the individual level, we can help understand what your taste is. So it's not just your demography or where you might live that determines what you see. It's actually your individual taste, which is completely unique. Everyone has their own taste graph on Pinterest, and it lets us not only serve you content we think you're going to like, but also try to open the aperture for tastes that might be just slightly adjacent to your starting point, so we can make sure we're showing you ever more interesting things that you're highly likely to enjoy. The other thing that's amazing now is that we're learning that not only do people want to shop their tastes, of course, but they want to shop their values. So one of the biggest things that Gen Z is telling us is like, hey, I want to buy all these things, but I want to buy them from companies that are aligned with my own value system. And in fact, Gen Z, it gives me a lot of hope. Gen Z, in spite of being the youngest constituent on the platform, are the ones who are most willing to spend more money to shop with brands that align with their values. So for one example, the average Gen Z person is willing to spend 60% more for an eco-friendly product, for instance. That gives me a lot of hope for the future and a lot of pride. And we want to make sure we're serving that instinct as well as we can. So now we allow merchants to, if you have something that is important to the values of your business, you might be a small business, you might be eco-friendly, you might be inclusive, we want to make sure that you can show that on your profile. And once verified, then it allows all sorts of shoppers to make decisions and shop you also because not only do you have great products, but you have values that align with how they see the world or how they'd like the world to be. And what that allows you to do is really drive value from living your values and stand out for what you stand for. Another thing that was really important to us as we looked at the shopping landscape is to allow people to become verified merchants. We really just didn't want a lot of low-quality products flooding the system. We wanted really high-quality products. We've all had the experience where we see a picture online and we buy it, and the thing just doesn't match at all. We just didn't want that to be possible on Pinterest. So to become a verified merchant means you are who you say you are, your products look like they appear in the pictures on the platform, and people can really trust, and therefore they'll come back and become more loyal to your brand. And there's some really amazing examples of wonderful German companies, of course. Home 24, for example, has done incredible work on Pinterest because what they've done is understood this is a place to create inspiration, not ads. And so they create incredible content that really fits in, that looks like ordinary Pinterest content because it is ordinary Pinterest content. Their shopping ads work really hard because they look like normal Pinterest content, and that's good. We have over 80% of Pinterest users saying, I think your ads are helpful and useful, and I want more of them. I don't think you'll ever hear that in any other situation, and that's because the content itself works harder. It works like normal Pinterest content, which I think is actually good for everybody. What about creators? Well, we have a whole bunch of new creators flooding to the platform for a few reasons. First, they really want a supportive environment. They don't want an environment where people are going to tear them apart or tear their ideas apart. And so Pinterest is a great example of somewhere where people come because they're looking for something to do, not just something to like. What's amazing about these creators is they actually say, hey, I'm here to major in expertise and minor in celebrity, right? Really, this is about me teaching and sharing and exposing my passion to more people. It's not just about me saying, look at me and look how great my life is. And again, for everyone's mental health, I actually think that's really critical. We've actually even asked our creators to sign what we call the creator code, where we say, look, we want you here if you're going to create content that is intellectually generous, that's going to help, that won't be clickbait, that won't be false in some way. And it's been so gratifying to see how many creators are flooding to that. They actually want to be part of an inspirational platform like that. We recently launched idea pins because what we heard from creators as well is like, hey, I not only want to show the amazing meal I made or the outfit or the makeup look, but I want to be able to walk people step by step so they can do it, everything I do, in real time. So we have all sorts of creators who are really having fun with these new formats so that people can say, look, I'm watching people not just react, but also upload their version of what I just did, and they can see their idea take on new legs and evolve over time, which is hugely gratifying to people who really care about the things that they do. And of course, we're learning that when you do this, people are much more likely to take action. So what I always tell creators is like, if you have something amazing to teach, if you have something you want to share, this is the place to do it. And you're going to see that people don't just like what you do, but as I said, they do what you do in the real world. And we want to make it as easy as possible for creators to earn money. We think that's really important. But in this world, you can get paid for your ideas, not just your image. You don't need to have a massive following on day one in order to be successful. So for example, if you're creating an amazing recipe and you're using a type of mixer, you can tag that mixer product. That will automatically notify the brand, and if they choose, they can choose to sponsor that content right then and there. So suddenly you have access to a really wide audience, and the brand has access to a really incredible piece of content that's user-generated, that's really authentic, and you didn't need to have 1 million followers to get started. Okay, so I've spoken a lot. I just want to give 1 minute to let you hear from some of the creators, the users, and of course the advertisers who are finding success on our platform. Oh, there's no sound, I'll have to skip it.
Pinterest is different because it is a hub of inspiration. It sparks ideas and concepts I otherwise would not have had.
It's different as a platform, as Pinterest is where people go to be inspired by new ideas, and they're probably not even looking for them, but they align with their values and their needs.
It's an opportunity that allows consumers to openly interact, to explore, to bookmark, to put your brand in their home.
That right person, right message, right time is something Pinterest can expertly deliver against.
I choose to advertise on Pinterest because I believe it's an inspirational and positive environment for our consumers.
Audiences aren't necessarily different on Pinterest, but their mindsets certainly are. Instead of going for social gratification, they're going for creative inspiration.
In comparison to other platforms, it doesn't feel like I'm being drained.
Je me sens complètement libre quand je partage sur Pinterest.
As content creators, we are conditioned to anticipate negativity, but creating in a space like Pinterest that has zero tolerance for it is just so freeing.
I never have to worry about trolls. I never have to worry about hate comments. I can really come on here and be my true, authentic self.
When I first tried the hair pattern tool, I got emotional. I no longer have to feel like I am other or I am the exception when searching for content.
That's why I keep going back, because I feel happy and I feel like I can express myself without having to sacrifice aspects of my mental health.
No other platform more seamlessly integrates brands amongst ideas and intent than Pinterest.
Keep being different. You're not like any other platform. You don't have a clearly defined competitive set. You don't fit neatly into a box. But those are some of the main reasons why we love working with you.
So, as I conclude, we have well over 400 million people who use Pinterest every single month. And it's really important to us that we harness the energy in our platform to do some real change online and do some real good in the world. But we need you. We need your help. If you believe in our mission, if you believe in this vision, and of course you want to see results, as you should, we invite you to join us on Pinterest. It's a really unique environment. It's very different from some of the other places. And you get to engage with a world where we're saying, hey, we're trying to move people from being really stuck, living their lives completely online, to seeing the benefits of living their lives truly offline. So we are the one online platform probably at OMR who's going to tell you our mission is to get people offline doing things in the real world. Why? Well, our mission is simple. We want to bring everyone the inspiration to create a real life that they love, because we think that's the right thing to do, and it's good for business, it's good for creators, and it's certainly good for the next generation. So I warmly invite you to join us. We want to disrupt things, we want to build a bigger internet, and we want to do that together. Thank you very much. Come say hello. We have Pinterest booth, and we're serving incredible food from some of our food creators of things that are starting to trend on Pinterest. So we invite you to come say hello, please.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Really, a few quick questions at the end. You mentioned research, and you seem to really understand your audience, their motivations, needs, and wants. Maybe we have to stand a little bit apart? Okay, let's go. Other than those studies, how else do you get your insights into what's important to people?
Yes. So the most amazing thing I think about Pinterest is that, again, people are coming to focus on their own lives and make plans for their real lives. So we see the future first, quite literally on Pinterest. You come to Pinterest to plan for the party you're having next month, or the wedding you're having in 6 months, or the new house renovation you'd like to do. But as a result, we have incredible data that says this is where the world is going, not where the world has been. So, most platforms at the end of every year, they do a year in review. We don't. We do a year in preview, and we tell creators and brands, hey, this is not trending now on Pinterest, but we predict it's going to trend in about 6 months or a year. the reason that's so powerful is you can get in on the ground floor of a trend that hasn't yet exploded, but is about to. And that data is extremely robust. I mean, in fact, in 2020, which was the most unpredictable year on record, 80% of what we predicted was going to be a trend came true. So it really doesn't matter the outside circumstances. That data is highly, highly reliable. And that's where we get a lot of our insights.
Like a vision board.
It's a literal vision board, but it's a vision that comes true.
Exactly. And you have been one of the first on the platform to take stance on issues like health misinformation, political advertising. But do you get any pushbacks?
No, not really. I mean, honestly, our users tell us like, hey, there's plenty of places for me to look at, conspiracy theories if I want to see them. I'm begging you to protect this. Like I said, this is the last positive corner of the internet. This is not about fighting with people. It's not about arguing. We want this place to be safe, and we want to trust the content that's on here and know that we can trust it. So, by the way, I should say, we don't make these decisions by ourselves. We work with neutral outside experts to help us make informed decisions because we know we're limited in our perspective, and we want to be really thoughtful when we're saying no to content.
And you talk about new things, doing new things. Exactly. Like what I think is really interesting is that, for me, is that Pinterest is an online platform that encouraged us to do things outside in the real world. But the question is now, how important is that in Pinterest's overall mission and vision now that the metaverse has come knocking?
I mean, we're excited by the metaverse as much as anyone, but we still believe in the real world. So you'll see, for example, we use AR. If you are looking at an amazing rug or a couch and you want to know what it's going to look like in my living room and will it fit, you can do that on Pinterest. If I want to try a crazy new lipstick, I can use AR on Pinterest to try it. But it's only in service of actually doing that thing and living your real life in the real world. We don't want people sucked online longer because the research is pretty clear. It's hugely damaging to your mental health, and we're in the business of creating happiness and creating inspired communities. So metaverse is a tool, but we want technology that enhances life, not that consumes your life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Give a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.